Hello everyone. This is Mary from NFT Go, Growth and Community Manager. It's another Wednesday. It's time for Super Spaces. I think we're only waiting for guys from Project Godjira, and we can slowly start. But until we start, I gotta say a few things. So nothing that we speak about tonight should be considered as any sort of financial advice. We're currently listening to Panda Dub Born to Dub full album. And we're gonna talk about the world behind Web3 gaming. So we have like this space is going to be so hot, guys. It's going to be, I'm sure, full of alpha, and it's going to be amazing. So let's give some time to guys from Gojiras and then slowly kick it off. And by then, enjoy in the music. Okay, now that we have good and in as well, I think maybe slowly we can start. So like I said, tonight is really super hot space. We got guys from My Pet Hooligan, we got guys from Godjira, we got guys from Degenheim, we got Dylan with us from Crown Capital DAO. They're actually focused on maximizing yields from portfolio of assets in top gaming economies. But I'll give some time for everyone to introduce themselves. But before that, I gotta say who we are and who is NFT Go. So NFT Go is NFT aggregation platform. It actually enables NFT community to analyze market data and make transactions directly. So what we do, we offer a set of powerful tools and features, which are NFT market analytics, developers API. So if you're a developer and listening to this, please visit our developers page. We got our own trading aggregator. We have our own rarity model. We have 2 more models included as well. We have top mints page, whale, you can track your whales, you can create your own watch list. We even have our own Twitter extension, which you can find by going in Google extension and searching for it there. You just have to type NFT Go and you'll find it. It's still in beta. And if you occur any sort of like inconvenience or you find any bugs, please let us know in our Discord as well. And of course, if you want to stay up to date what's going on and what's hot, visit our drops calendar. And we just recently, like 2 days ago, added a super cool new tab that's called Mint. It's also in beta, which you can see like total mints, how many unique minters were, how many were like mint lasted, how many blue chip holders were involved, how many whales. how many were never sold, how many of them were sold at least once, etc., etc., etc. So I invite you guys all to visit nftgo.io, connect your wallet. All connections are completely safe. You can buy NFTs directly from NFTGo, and you can create your watch list, follow your favorite wallets, follow your favorite NFTs, and follow your favorite projects. So that's in short who we are and what we're doing. And like I said, tonight's space is so hot. I'm so excited that if I start like mumbling, that's from me being so much excited. It already started. So yeah, basically, I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself one by one. And I think that we can give advantage to guys from Degenheim, since they were the ones who were minted like a few days ago. And then we can open up the panel. You guys can raise your hand, or you can just continue after the previous speaker. So welcome, Degenheim guys. Please do introduce yourself and your project.
Hey, hello. Greetings, everyone. Name's Milan. I'm the founder of Degenheim. Thank you for the warm intro and making us go first. Well, what we're doing is virtually trying to create a game that is built on the principles of Web2 gaming, which are successful principles which create games that people love, enjoy, and tend to play over and over again, and enrich this experience by leveraging NFTs and crypto as a technology to the benefit of the player, to empower players by giving them true means of digital ownership instead of the wannabe ownership of Web2, where you're not really owning your items, and trying to virtually create a natural successor to the status quo of game monetization, which focuses more on the player, levels the playing field, and virtually creates much more fair economies. So if I were to put it into short terms, there's a huge backstory behind Degenheim, and I don't want to take a lot of time from the others. If I were to put it, it's like, imagine having the fun of your favorite Web2 game, such as Diablo, Hades, The Lost Ark, Path of Exile, but with the opportunity of being possibly ROI positive by having your digital assets as NFTs, which could potentially then be monetizable to your advantage, and that is Degenheim.
Nice. Thanks for the short introduction, Milan. Before we continue, I gotta say who's my sidekick tonight. So my sidekick tonight is Vichsa. He's the guy who actually made a comparison thread between Degenheim and My Pet Hooligans, and he got some hooligans really angry. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey guys, yeah, that thread was misunderstood. We all know that what two of my favorite projects are. So I just did a sort of thing to I don't know, not to compare, but to say how Web3 gaming is still early and people cannot really recognize that in this market, and that's basically it. But hey, people will do what people will do. As long as I get haters, it means that I'm growing in this space.
No, man, I'm just joking. Vichsa is actually our CM and collab manager, and the guy who is doing really amazing job with connecting us with amazing projects like we have tonight. So maybe we can move on now to hooligans. So behind hooligans are tonight
Sky Upper and Wesley Snipes.
What's up, guys?
Wesley Snipes. What up, Wesley?
Let's go NFT go.
Let's go, guys. Thanks for having us on.
And let me tell you about the hooligans. The hooligans are ready to go at any time, so you got to watch out for them. They will get aggressive.
Yeah.
They will fight our cause, and we love them for it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want it any other way.
We appreciate all the same. All love, Vixa.
It's all love. It's all love anyway. There's nothing bad about it.
Yeah.
Man, hooligans rose so many nostalgia, man. When I saw the first preview of the game, I was like, wow. and it brought up so many memories of the games that I used to play when I was little. Like I'm gonna maybe make stupid comparisons, but it reminded me like on Jazz Jackrabbit, like it gave me this like sort of vibe and sort of like Sam vibe. I don't know if have you ever played Sam, but it gave me this like ultimate destruction vibe of like having something that I honestly cannot wait to go out.
Yeah, and wait till you see the next version, because whatever you've seen so far, the next version is at least 5 times better than that. So it's onwards and upwards for us.
Absolutely.
But let me give you the quick pitch on what we are. We are a true Web3 native IP touching on all elements of entertainment. That's gaming, storytelling, and socializing, backed by innovative products and tools. Our work speaks for itself. I've got nothing else to say on this particular intro, so we'll move on to the next guest if that's all right, because we've got plenty of stuff to say on other subjects.
Nice. You guys are having party there, right? 2 of you.
Yep.
Nice. Hooligans always having a party. Hooligans are always having a party. Nice. And we have Gooden from Project Godjira.
Jumped on any of our Twitter spaces.
Let's go.
Okay, I'm going. Hey guys, my name is Guden or Ruben. I'm the CCO and also launchpad and consultancy lead for Project Godjira or PG. And I'm also working esports in my Web2 life. So where we run a competitive esports platform that we built over the last 5 years. So I'm very heavily into the esports and a massive gamer myself. We currently run the biggest corporate league in CSGO in Norway, where we have about 80 companies competing every season and continuously growing. So my day-to-day life is very much a part of gaming as well. Been a gamer since I was small. So background in interactive game design. So feel pretty home in this chat. So happy to be here and love to discuss gaming and Web3 with you guys.
Nice having you, Gooden. And last but not the least, Dylan Schaub representing tonight Crown Capital DAO. Please, Dylan, do introduce yourself and tell us what is Crown Capital DAO all about.
Hi, everyone. So I'm probably more known in this space because of WGMI or Fat Cats DAO, but actually the first entry point for me was Crown Capital, which we founded back in August of 2021, when we started seeing some of the AAA studios entering the space. At the time, it was Illuvium and Gala Games that really caught our attention. But since then, Big Time has come out and Other Side is about to launch and stuff. And, I think that kind of what I consider blockchain gaming or player-owned economies is that critical aspect that was missing for so long from some of the large MMO RPGs, because you could have your account basically just closed and all those assets that you'd earned over the years, like, Genesis skins and stuff, would not be something that you could monetize legally anyway. I mean, you could sell your account and get it, closed that way too. And so that really got me excited. And I think that's something we're not talking about enough, because, when we talk about things like utility, blockchain games are pretty much the extreme point of what kind of utility you can already get in the space. So welcome everyone. And yeah.
Let's talk games, guys. Let's talk games. So I like
Let's go.
the games that I used to play while I was playing was like Quake 3, Red Alert, until the third part, Heroes of Might and Magic 3, of course, and like not many games. I was playing like Prince of Persia, like I said, Jazz Jackrabbit, Earthworm Jim, and stuff like that. And then it came like Counter-Strike, etc., etc. So it became like kind of boring to me. But now with like this is not a shill, but honestly, guys, when I saw My Pet Hooligans, and I'm sorry now for the rest of the projects, but when I saw this project, I was like again excited, and then I got like another, wish, like I want to play this game. I honestly want to play this game. So the first question for all of you guys would be, what were your inspirations and how did you get on the idea of creating such games that you are working on?
We can just to dovetail on what you're saying there. I'm happy to just take that real quick. So, one, thank you very, very much for those accolades, and like much love to everybody up on the stage with us right now. So, ultimately, that nostalgia factor that you're talking about is something that we've really leaned into. We knew that was something that we wanted to build. We were really, really inspired by games like again, Ratchet and Clank, or things. Obviously, Quake 3 tournament was a big one. Conker's Bad Fur Day, obviously, we got a little bit of that kind of DNA in there, and then fundamentally, underneath all this, GTA, right? We're building an expansive world in which multiple game modes are going to be accessible. And I want to touch on one other thing that you mentioned about Red Alert. Red Alert holds a very special place in my heart personally. That type of resource and map management game is something that I think is fundamentally a really cool thing to play with. So we're layering that into the overall kind of Grand Theft Auto experience. But I'm going to shut up now. Appreciate the love.
I also wanted to mention Grand Theft Auto as well, but I haven't played after the 3rd edition. So I'm usually stuck at 3rd edition. Same goes with Need for Speed. Like when it comes to third party,
You're missing out big time because sorry to jump in, but GTA 5 is probably one of the best games of all time. I'm willing to put
I know, man, but it was so much pumped at the moment that I was like, it's like with TV shows, like everyone are watching it and like talking about it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to play it eventually. And I never played, but after this comment, I'm definitely gonna try it out. I see. Yeah, please say.
I was going to say, definitely, it's not such a bad thing if everybody likes it sometimes.
Of course, man, of course.
If everybody likes a particular music track, I kind of say, I'm not going to listen to that because everybody likes it. But GTA 5 is the truth.
Yeah, definitely going to try it out. Vitsa, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, considering I'm a 40-year-old ex-gamer, all of the games you mentioned I know about, and I can say more. The last MAA of my Bad Hooligans that I saw, it really reminded me of my early pro gaming days where I played Unreal Tournament. So, guys, I'm waiting for Capture the Flag mode, just so you know. However, on a different note, I also played Diablo, which you haven't mentioned, and that might be an entry point for someone else, right?
But Milan actually mentioned it, so maybe he can take it over there. What was your inspiration, guys? I mean, you already mentioned some of the games that were inspiration, but what was in your head?
By the way, I was very happy about the games you mentioned because the most of them were my childhood. Like Earthworm Jim, I never had because we only had it on Sega, like the old ass black Sega console that only my cousins had. So when I wanted to play it, I had to go to my cousin's house. But Just Jackrabbit, by the way, Just Jackrabbit, I just got a notification that it's currently free on GOG. So if you want to have a trip down the memory lane, so now is the time to grab Just Jackrabbit 2 again. But yeah, other than that, like a lot of these games like formed me and a lot of the guys on the team, since we're somewhere. Well, some of us are over 30, some of us are under 30, so we are of the generation that played this golden era of games. However, yeah, like GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, and all of the Diablos and stuff like that. There is a lot of stuff that inspires you despite being a different genre. It's just like, even if it's a different genre, what inspires you the most is the experience and the memory it leaves, right? Because like when you just started mentioning like Earthworm Jim, I instantly remember the second level, which is like it is on time and you have to go through like you have to shoot through sand and crawl up all the way and shit like this. The levels where you have to carry the cows and so on and so on. It's just like it instantly teleports you like 20-25 years back in your life, and that is possibly the biggest inspiration when you want to create games, that you have to think about like how can we create an experience where when someone in 10 years or 20 or I don't know how many will be like, yeah, dude, like remember Dijonheim, like that like telling you telling it to your kids like yeah, there was something your dad played and it was like, what, Dijonheim, ancient shit. And like you have to take inspiration from a lot of titles, especially those who made your childhood. But regarding like gameplay wise, for us, the biggest inspirations were possibly like Diablo, or even more so than Diablo, Hades. Hades is a tremendously successful game, awesome success story. Why it inspired us, because like it was also done by a small, let's say, indie studio, under 20-man operation on a minuscule budget. And what they actually managed to pull off is to take a genre that was already successful, put their own spin to it, sell it as an unfinished game. They had 770,000 buying players, like premium buying players, and ended up in millions of dollars of sales, winning 50 Game of the Year awards and being the king of the roguelite genre ever since. And the game is tremendously fun. Like probably in a lot of years, that was the most engaging and fun experience I had in a game. And even despite it being an indie game, like I have a very high expectations of games, because like I love the old games, but for example, from the new games, I'm a huge Witcher 3 fan and so on. So that sets up the bar really, really high, because like after I played Witcher 3, a lot of games just suddenly didn't bring me any joy, which was possibly the biggest negative. And suddenly when I found there was something that was super engaging, like that instantly became a huge inspiration.
Awesome. Really awesome story behind the Degenheim. Dylan, you raised your hand. Please take
it's
it
funny.
over.
I'm a twin. I have a twin brother. And when it came to growing up in the 90s and 2000s, we deviated completely on games. He was much more into kind of Counter-Strike, Diablo, Duke Nukem, all of those, like first-person shooter games. And I was heavily into the early strategy games, and then particularly the city builder games. So I was very into Counter-Strike, Dune Emperor, Command and Conquer, Civilization, those kinds of games. And then I deviated towards more like Sims, Pharaoh and Cleopatra. And I think that's kind of, when like World of Warcraft finally became like a big MMORPG and all of that, I had played the first World of Warcrafts. I started deviating more towards the platforms that were opening, right? Like Second Life, Minecraft, Roblox, because there was a great difficulty in turning like a strategy city builder game into an MMORPG, right? It was difficult to have these continuous worlds. And so I went more along the lines of the social platforms that were also gamified, right? Which is what I consider Minecraft and Roblox, right? It's predominantly an open world social platform, but it's also got gamified aspects to it, which I think Degenheim touches into. Mirandus is going to touch into that. Other Side touches into that. And so when I started seeing that blockchain games a lot of them were looking to go these two different directions, I got really excited, because I felt that a lot of the social platforms had not been that focused on, because, like Hollywood, the gaming studios have tended to rinse and repeat, right? If something is working, then they just keep pumping out more of that. That's why I think some people bemoan like the glory ages are gone of creativity. But now that there's kind of so much money again, right? There's so much money looking at the metaverse and stuff like that. We're seeing a renaissance of a style that I felt had not been getting that much focus for the last decade and a half.
So from what you just said, you sound like you are my brother twin, man. From the games that you played, like literally like you're my twin brother. So that's awkward. Just joking. So we have one more person to tell us about their project, and that's good. And you guys are building something that's mind-blowing as well. So you guys have Gen 1, Gen 2, you have collectibles, you have Jiraverses, you have your own VX collection. So what's in your head, guys? What's your idea?
Well, from that perspective, the GameFi side is more, I would say, from a potentially a personal, what should I say, interest as well. So from my end of being here today, of course, the metaverse is something that we are very much interested in looking into, and have had a lot of conversations about, and trying to work that out, where will it move, when will it actually start moving. The biggest issue we have right now is the compute scaling. which there are some very cool projects that I can't mention too much about what they're doing, but we're going to be seeing some interesting things coming. Because as soon as we solve that compute issue, we'll be able to have those concurrent users that is lacking at this moment, because you truly won't have a metaverse experience at this point. Very much also interested in the thought and notion of having gaming on blockchain, in the sense of going into it, just to give a hypothetical, going into a dungeon, dropping a sword for a better one that you found, and going back 5 years later and still finding that weapon in the same place that you did because it's stored on blockchain. Those things where we can start making worlds that can live on forever, and they live on the blockchain, which kind of ties into what Dylan said, right? Is that you don't have that wallet. Now you don't have that capacity of losing those items that you've had. Like, for example, if you started playing World of Warcraft in the start of it, you were just feeding into the notion of finding that world drop or that epic item, but then it kind of stopped there, and then they rinsed and repeat that whole system over and over and over again, to the point where even like the leveling became so obnoxious and obscene that they had to rescale the entire game back again. So there's a lot of faults with how Web2 has been doing it at this point, and I think Web3 and blockchain is the next revolution in how these things will evolve. So that's kind of a broad sense. So we have a lot of interest in different areas. And personally, to kind of talk a little bit to what the guys were talking about as well with games, World of Warcraft, Diablo, CS, PUBG, Command & Conquer, all of it, played all of it. Have a very broad appetite for gaming. Always kind of into competitive gaming, and that's where I really hope to see some of these guys as well shine. Like what Degendyne did with their tournament, to see that competitive esports scene tagged in with also collectibles that you now can move on chain. You can reward yourself by being good at this and potentially live off it, which is the coolest thing that I think. Because we see a bunch of competitive games now trying to tie in tokens in their own ecosystem and economies. So, for example, you have card games like MTG that are wildly successful worldwide, but being a professional MTG player, for example, is not something that you can do. So a lot of these people resort over to poker. So I definitely hope to see more native games that can thrive and also have actual people living off of doing what they love, and that's playing games. That's something that intrigues me very much.
Thanks for sharing this. Milan, you mentioned Diablo. Well, we all mentioned Diablo, and I don't know, have you guys heard about Samurai Saga project? They're building something similar as well, and they're really awesome. And I'm surprised nobody actually mentioned Doom. Have you guys ever played Doom?
Is that even a question?
Is that even a question, right?
Like if anyone hasn't, they shouldn't even be on this panel. Like Doom.
That's the literal. That's where level building started.
Yeah,
exactly.
Let me tell you something, however, that Doom movie with the Rock in it was terrible.
Yeah.
Why can nobody ever make a good movie of a video game? I've never, nobody's been able to pull it off. But you know who's going to pull it off first? My Pet Hooligan.
There you go.
Okay. I hear a lot of competitors here, and I like it. I really like it, because I'm really like super hyped on what you guys building, all of you, and like I'm really intrigued what Godjira is all about, because you guys are like observing from so many different perspectives, and that's what's really awesome, because that's what should this space actually be about. And on the other hand, we have you guys who are like solely like working on the games, and I want to talk a little about the tools that actually you guys are using to build a game. So maybe if maybe someone in the audience want to learn something about the game building, maybe we can give them some insights. How does that look like? How many devs you have? How does it like evolves? What does it look like behind the scenes?
I'm happy to just hop in real quick on some of that. So, at least for us over here at AMGI Studios, so we have a team here of I think we're at 56 people total. primarily game devs and technical artists. We started off originally as an animation technology company, and we were only working in Unreal. So all of my Pet Hooligan Rabbit Hole is all built in Unreal 5. So that's primarily it, just to kind of give a brief sort of out of focus snapshot of how we're building this thing and what it takes. I mean, and everybody on the stage, you guys all know, building a AAA game, building games is difficult, and it takes lots of resources, lots of technical development. It's a whole thing and a half. But and I think that's tends to be something that's overlooked with many NFT projects, then subsequent game releases. And I do think that we're seeing the cohort of projects, those all of us kind of included on the stage right now, the projects that are kind of going to supersede that and continue to build cool shit as time moves on.
Yeah, we usually hear like projects popping up and they say, we're going to build a game. It's going to happen tomorrow. Like, hey guys, like AAA game needs at least, I don't know, maybe 2, 3, 5 years to be built like completely. And I think that people usually don't have this perspective of how does that actually looks like. And many people are expecting like, yeah, they're going to build like, oh, look at the roadmap for 1 year. They're going to build a game in next 9 months. That's not possible. At least like if you don't have like huge funding, I think it's not possible at all. But maybe you guys at the Diggenheim can prove me wrong. What's your opinion about it? Oh, sorry, Vitsa, you have your hand raised, please, and then we can move to Milan.
Yeah, just the thing I noticed, like I love how he used AAA and like, okay, I'm talking about my project. No, a game, yeah.
Milan, what's your opinion on building the games and how do you guys do it?
Well, depends, right? For example, we went the very opposite way around. We're not trying to build anything AAA related, right? Because it comes with its drawbacks. Also with raising complexity, the more AAA you go, the more complex your project gets, the more resources you need, the more time you need, the more developers you need, and so on and so on and so on. And the complexity rises, especially when you want to target longevity and the scalability of the game. So, for example, we totally went the other way around, right? And I'm not saying one way is bad and the other is wrong. Like both are absolutely feasible and both are absolutely viable. However, we wanted to stay away from AAA gaming and AAA graphics, and that was due to multiple reasons. We chose more to go into low poly in a more stylized way, just because like we find that it's a very attractive visual, and apparently people love it, and there have been many successful games already which pulled it off. And the plus of this is that this, for example, actually allows us to make the game very, very accessible. And it reduces a lot of the complexity, especially to the graphics, animations, VFX, and so on, yet you can still make it very, very attractive and pretty, while still retaining peak performance. As of, for example, Diggenheim has been tested on computers which were low to mid-tier PC machines 5 years ago, and those are able to run Diggenheim smoothly at 130 to 150 FPS at 4K, and that is remarkable performance. And that is what we wanted to strive towards, to make the game accessible, so that, for example, like people on budget PCs, people on in development countries can play it. And because like when you go like triple A game, like those graphics like Battlefield and so on, you do have to consider that only like the top 10% of gamers will actually be able to play the game, because there's GPU shortage. You want a powerful GPU, you have to have $700 just for the graphic cards. And that might be like tremendous amounts of money, at least for example, like Southeast Asia and so on, which then hinders the scalability of your game. For example, a very, very good example is League of Legends. Like, do you think League of Legends can't make better graphics? Well, yes, they fucking can. Anyone has seen Arcane, which I think someone mentioned here, like games going into movies. This isn't exactly a movie, it was a series, but as far as I know, Riot and Arcane used Arcane as possibly one of the most successful user acquisition channels in the history of gaming. Like I don't know whether Arcane isn't actually like the most successful series that was on Netflix ever, and it was tremendously visual. But then you can ask yourself the question, but why doesn't League of Legends look like this? Because they want people on a $300 notebook to be able to run League of Legends so the game can scale effectively. So it's like a trade-off of what you want. It's like one thing isn't right and one thing isn't wrong. It's like there are plus and minuses to both of them. For example, some people are graphic freaks and they just thrive on AAA graphics. Like, for example, Witcher 3, right? Witcher 3 was a beautiful game, but if you did Witcher 3 in a low poly art style, Witcher 3 would look like shit and it wouldn't have the immersive feeling and it wouldn't be the same game. It would deliver a very, very underperforming experience while still being fun at gameplay. That is, for example, a game where this doesn't apply. However, for example, I don't know, there are games which can totally pull it off on even like low poly, pixelated looks and so on. Like, anyone ever heard of Minecraft? Like, Minecraft in its early stages didn't look AAA at all, and is one of the most successful games in the history of gaming. So it's like there's multiple approaches. This is ours, but I do think, for example, what the others are doing here, like for example, My Bad Hooligan, you can see they're doing a tremendous job at, for example, animating the faces of their characters, and that takes some skill. Like, that shows they have a very good team on people who are very profound with animation and like mocap and so on. And that is, for example, something we don't do because we don't consider it any benefit to our core gameplay loop, and we don't have like we have like fractional experience in this when compared to them, and we can see that like their expertise is super shining there, right? So it's like there are different approaches and none of them are right or wrong. It depends on what you are striving towards, and yeah, I think that's it.
If I may, really quick, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with everything you're saying there. It's ultimately, I feel like when bringing a product, and specifically a Web3 game, to the masses, it really is just about finding that product market fit, and there are multiple ways to do so. Yeah, and ultimately for us, and I appreciate the kind words. Ultimately, you know, we were lucky. We had, again, this team already in place. We had Pixar, Disney talent. We had, again, our chief creative officer. You know, had worked on the first Toy Story. He's an ex-Pixar alum with a couple of other people at our company. We were already really focusing on animation, motion capture, and real-time animation technology, and then which are now turning into our actual content creator tools. So overall, for us, you know, we realized we had a positional advantage to kind of move on these sorts of things. But ultimately, it comes down to specifically what each project is trying to achieve, and there's really no right or wrong way to go about it, so long as the game itself is fundamentally intuitive and fun, in my opinion.
I think one way to really go about this, which, you know, you guys are bang on the mark of, is the world's a big place. Yeah. Just focusing on, you know, a small demographic, you're not going to make it. Games need to be able to be enjoyed by the masses. People in, you know, Asia, Southeast Asia, not everybody has a gaming machine. Yeah. Majority of games are consumed on mobile devices, and, you know, we're definitely going for that market as well as console. Because we do want to get this in the hands of as many traditional gamers as possible. Like, Web3 gaming is such a small niche. It's not big at all. Like, you know, we can kid ourselves and say it's huge, but it's not. Even crypto is still small right now. Yeah, totally. We're still super early in both of these kind of stages of, you know, society's evolution and where these kind of benefits move forward. So, you know, going out to the masses is going to require ease of use, the ability to break down barriers of entry, and that's not having $1,000 NFT to be able to play a game. Yeah. Not going to make it again. It's about having things that are free to play, allowing the ability for an everyday person who just wants to enjoy a game to come in and play, and not have to worry about, you know, the exchanges, decentralized exchanges, MetaMask wallets, etc. Just let them in, come have a fun time. Like, you know, if you look at the likes of, everybody talks about kind of Fortnite and Warzone, etc. You know, none of these games have Web3 components, and they're absolutely smashing it. Like, you know, they're making billions of dollars revenue a year. You know, it's not necessarily always about the money, but they're doing so because they've actually got a game that is fun to play. Like, I've been saying this a lot recently. Nobody pays me to play Call of Duty. Nobody pays me to go to the cinema to watch a movie. Nobody pays me to listen, you know, to the new Britney Spears album. I do.
He is a big fan.
I do these things because Taylor Swift album. I do these things because I enjoy them. I actually pay to consume entertainment. We're doing it the wrong way. A lot of people are doing it the wrong way. Not us, but a lot of people are doing it the wrong way in crypto. And essentially, the only incentive to play a Web3 game at the moment, in most cases, is that you can earn from it. What happens if that's your only incentive? Everybody just extracts value. Nobody's putting value back in because there is no value in the gameplay that you're providing. So key is make a fun game. If you happen to have benefits that will allow you to earn some cryptocurrency, all good. But that should be an additional benefit rather than the core benefit. The core benefit should be absolute breathtaking entertainment.
I'm going to mute us. I know you guys got your hands up here.
Definitely. We're going to speak about onboarding later on. Let's see what Dylan has to say about the topic. He raised his hand a while ago, waiting.
So from a Crown Capital point of view, we consider ourselves to be basically like a gamers guild, a property REIT, not so much an esports guild. And our focus has been to, I don't want to say triple A games as opposed to triple A studios. We focused heavily on the teams and teams that had a lot of funding. In other words, we could see that there were a lot of indie games coming out, and we focused on teams that were able to raise a hell of a lot of money early on, whether it was, Gala Games with Mirandus raising 800 million or something along those lines, or Illuvium with its 400 million, or other side with its 900 million, Big Time similarly. So we have not taken a stance when it comes to graphics. We think that the game should have low barriers of entry. So it should be a beautiful UI, hide the wires, make it as easy for people to get in. It needs to have scalability, so a lot of players can be there continuously, preferably with player versus player aspects, as well as player versus environment aspects. And then we've wanted to find games that had complex economies, because the whole Axie Infinity story has taught us that, if the game is not fun, but also doesn't have somewhat of a complex economy where you've got sinkholes where you can burn aspects and it's deflationary, then once you go past your rapid growth phase, you're going to be in serious trouble when you get to your even phase, right? Where, you've lost a lot of your hype players, but you've got a very strong core player base. And if you don't have kind of deflationary aspects, which Web2 games didn't have to deal with, but we do have to deal with, you're not going to make it. So from a visual fidelity point of view, I certainly love the Unreal Engine much more than I do any of the other engines. But I think Unreal, just renders faces beautifully. I know that My Pet Hooligan has been leading the charge over there with Unreal Engine 5 and doing things that others haven't even dreamt of yet. But I've always loved Unreal Engine. But that said, I think, power to DJhaim as well. There is a lot you can do with taking kind of voxel technology to the next level as well. I mean, I've been blown away by what Big Time has accomplished. I think it's beautiful. I think Mirandus with Gala Games flagship offering, I just did the playtest recently, absolutely beautiful. But I'm always going to be a visual fidelity snob personally. So, Metalcore, My Pet Hooligan, these kinds of Unreal Engine 5 graphics are very exciting to me.
Ruben, you have your hand raised. Please, just...
I think Vixa had his hand raised longer than me.
No, go.
No, I just wanted to touch about a little bit point. Like we were talking about game engines. Yes, I'm also an Unreal Engine guy myself. Built game in that myself. But I wanted to touch upon another point, which I find is very interesting. That the My Pet Hooligan guys brought up, is needs to be a bit of a clarification between yes, the core of the project and the game should always be, we want to make cool shit. Like we want to make a fun game, want to make something entertaining. We want high replayability, but there is always the crux of monetization, right? So I do think those things have to play hand in hand. Maybe we have been a little bit too heavily into how can I extract as much monetary value as humanly possible out of this. But then again, like if you look at the skin economy in Counter-Strike Go, for example, imagine that system on blockchain, right? That's like, this is my, what should I say? What is it called? Like Illuminati take on Steam banning games, no banning with blockchain, is that they don't want to see that go onto blockchain before they themselves know how to monetize it, right? And then take a cut of that cake, which makes a lot of sense. It's like shut it down, understand it, and then monetize it yourself. But I do believe that for this to be what it can be, ultimately it would be an arena where those things can go hand in hand and not necessarily one be shunned by the other, was what I wanted to say.
Thanks. Vitsa, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess it's my turn because it really fits well right now because what Milan said, he mentioned League of Legends. And basically, League of Legends was like a no-go for a Dota 1 or Heroes of New World maxis like I was. So basically, there is always a targeted group for every game that exists in the world. So at the moment, we have like just a small number of projects that are coming out from the Web3 world, and basically all of them will have their targeted group in the future. So there is a lot more space for a lot more projects, which comes basically, which perfectly, how can I say this? Sorry, English is not my native language. With what Gudin just said, it perfectly aligns with it.
I just have to add up something in terms of CG. Vitsa, are you still talking, or we lost you?
No. I was finished.
Okay. Sorry, man. So I just want to add up something on a CG level because I'm glad that Milan mentioned actually Arcane. I guess that everyone saw Love, Death, Robots on Netflix as well. Their CG is amazing. You cannot even tell that it's like something that's been drawn by hand. And I guess that Douglas Ross never expected when he wrote like this, when he made the first experiment in 50s, like when he wrote this first small program, that actually captured, the movement of his finger and like displayed it. I think that he never expected of such a huge expansion, but we can also see like the CG, going back and forth all the time. Like I'm just going to revert it to the movie industry because my background is from the production. So we can see like these differences in terms of like quality CG, and like then you will see movie after 5-10 years going out, and then you will see like lousy CG. So I just think it's all about the teams who are building, and of course like the team is like the core of everything. And if you have a quality team, then it's definitely something that it's going to push your project up front. But I'm super excited with what Milan shared in terms of like we wanna have our games accessible. And Dylan, you have your hand raised, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how can we onboard these guys that guys from Hooligans just mentioned, like the gamers who are still, like angry. They don't want to be on the blockchain. They don't want to be part of Web3, etc., etc., etc. So Dylan, please make your statement, and then we can move on to the onboarding part.
Sure. So when I'm looking at games, I'm looking at 3 criteria predominantly at the moment. I'm looking for them to be kind of fun, right? I think that's imperative. And I think all of the speakers today have touched on that are visually appealing. And there's different types of visual appeal. As we said, you can have high fidelity, or you can have a Minecraft style, what appeals to different people. And you've just mentioned, Mary, about, being accessible, right? How do you hide the wires? How do you make it that if a person from Web2 comes in, they don't even realize it's on the blockchain, right? They're just enjoying it. And if they want to check in more, they can find that ownership aspect. But when you do get a chance, I would love to know, from DJ, my pet hooligan, and also, from Gooden, if he wants to weigh in, how do these games balance their economies? I think that's an aspect that I'm always struggling with. And the second issue is when you look at some of the early games on the blockchain that have been here, the biggest kind of problem that people don't like to talk about, but that is always predominant, is the issue of bots, right? How do we deal with bots screwing up, the economies by just basically, on repeat, mining everything into oblivion? So, those are the 2 aspects that I'm always trying to deal with, and I would love to hear from the others if they want to weigh in on that at some point.
Thanks, Dylan. Let's move with that subject because it's much more important, I think, at this point.
No one
Ruben,
wants to take on this, right?
yeah, nobody is.
Yeah, I was
They're all
wondering if
being
it was
polite. They're
Rug.
waiting for you to call
I
on
kind of
them,
wanted
Larry.
to clarify the question is like mining in the sense of how, like if it's accrued by gameplay, then where do we see the mining for games?
So I've got no problem with grinds, right? I love the RuneScape concept. I just, I'm still one of those people that will pay a premium for something that's handmade. Okay, I love knowing that people put labor into things. And so if someone has to grind to cut down trees and is also listening to a podcast while doing it, go for it. I think the problem is that, there are bots that can really just, do the simple gaming aspects on repeat at a tremendous speed that is not possible by humans. And that, I think, really leaves a bad taste in people's mouth. So if those aspects can be botted, right? In other words, the farming can be mass botted, whereby, a person who's got a little bit of money coming in and running a farm cannot compete at any level. I think that's what scares away gamers. So that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Okay, yeah, I get your point.
Operation, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that again becomes the nature of the game, right? Like if it's a heavily skill-based game, then the bots kind of get nulled out, in my opinion. For example, if you look like a game like Ninetales, which is coming out with their alpha right now, it's a TCG game built by a PhD mathematician and a professional MTG and poker player. So they really got everything on lock. So they've kind of revamped what MTG potentially could have looked like now if it came out now and not in the 90s, because they have too much legacy that they can't go around. It's heavily skill based and competitive, so I don't foresee any bots being able to utilize this game, for example.
Yeah, 100%. Those kinds of skill-based games, and that's an answer, right? The skill-based games, I think, the poker type games, the MTG type games. I'm glad you brought up Ninetales, because I've spoken to the founder a few times. Those high skill-based games don't have to have a lot of visual fidelity, right? And they can still have something that's really mentally stimulating with a collectible aspect as well. So that's a great example. But to my pet hooligans, I mean, I don't know if you will have aspects which could be botted, or if the game's too complex for it. But that's really what I wanted to bring up, because if your games are complex, then bots will probably not be a problem.
Yeah, no, completely agree with you there. Happy to jump in. No, we've been talking a lot, so we just want to let everybody kind of get some words in there. So pretty much, for us, fundamentally it kind of comes down to a collection of game modes, and then that, at least the way that we've architected our system. And by the way, there's always going to be metas that will obviously present themselves, so we just want to be very aware of those loops and try to make it so that botting isn't a possibility, correct? And I completely agree with you, Dylan. Like, it really kind of comes down to intelligent complexity and just good design, right? Making sure that things can be abstracted into very dynamic outcomes, right? For us, for example, we've got multiple game modes that will be layered on a larger resource management game, which plays on a seasonal basis, which we're calling Turf Wars, in which various factions will be able to, essentially either kind of be operating in a cycle of either cooperation or competition with one another, and there are various kind of collection components to that, and Web3 activations in and around that whole system. Now, for us, I think the more dynamic that you can build that system, the more outcomes, the more complex that that outcome tree becomes. Then generally speaking, yeah, I think that's how you mitigate that bot problem. But at the same time, I think having some flexibility built into the system as well, and being able to recalibrate as meta essentially presents itself, is also really important, right? Just being able to pay attention to what your systems always anticipate. You're never going to design it perfectly. I think I believe much more so in an iterative process by which you can test, see what's working, see what's not working, and then continue to calibrate.
Yeah. So just to add to that, like, our game will not be a game that you can simply log into, just do some predefined activity and actually earn from.
Right.
The actual free-to-play layer of the game will not have any earning potential in there. So you will actively have to kind of contribute to the ecosystem, kind of work through various game modes, build up your reputational points, and ultimately have to be recruited by the kind of overarching NFT holders as they build up their teams from those other game modes. So essentially, it's going to be very difficult to bot it because you're not going to be able to kind of get into those other various game modes without having achieved certain things, having met certain criteria, and actually having contributed to the ecosystem as well. So, yeah, I mean, one of the other kind of key questions and key things that everybody needs to work on, that even some of the biggest games out there cannot fully, completely control, is the ability for individuals to cheat, and that will be an ongoing war. And it'd be remiss of anybody to say wholeheartedly they've got the solution for that. So that will be an ongoing war. We know there's plenty of tools out there and plenty of thinking in terms of that, but that is the more difficult question, an ongoing battle that any game out there, Web3 or not, will have to face, especially Web3, where there is an actual earning component of it as well. I hope that answers the question, Dylan.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, everyone.
If I can just add to this, because I heard all the things I have actually seen before in my history. Basically, what I have seen in I'll use World of Warcraft as a comparison. When I started to play that, the game was complex and was really difficult to play. The years have gone by and the game has become more soft and easy to play, and the old school players stopped to play. Basically, the complex thing is bad for mass adoption, while on the other end, it's a good thing for anti-bot systems. So I'm guessing there is some sort of a balance that needs to be found, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think some of the games are going to have RuneScape aspects to them, or minting aspects to them that might be botted, or there might be an acceptable amount of botting. Gala Games' Townstar game took into account botting, and their search algorithm, when they were trying to punch it out, looked for certain kinds of botting. So certain types of botting, like the repetitive tasks, they didn't have a problem with. But if they saw other kinds of botting, then they could freeze the accounts and stuff like that. So I don't think it's a one size fits all solution over here. And I do think that botting is something that we've kind of got to accept as part of the ecosystem, right? Just like when we mint in NFTs, we accept that there are going to be certain aspects, or give or take 10, 20, 30% that might, go to bots that are going to teach us about a vulnerability we never knew about. But as, MyPet Hooligan mentioned, being able to dynamically adjust with seasons or with the algorithm or whatever, I think is the important part. And just being aware of it is why I wanted to bring up this point. But as we move away from crypto kitties to more complex games, I think, the solutions will present themselves just naturally, as Gudrun mentioned with Ninetales.
Completely agree with you, Dylan.
Vitsa, you got something to add up?
I mean, not to add up, I would just continue the story forward, but I think you had something to say first, right?
Well, I always have something to say. So we just hopped on the topics of tokenomics in general. I know that you guys in Godjira have a specific tokenomics. Can you tell us a little bit more about that one? And what's gonna be like, the future of your tokenomics, tokenomics?
Well, there is some stuff under work right now. So to not disclose what I can't disclose, I'll keep that on wraps for now, if that's okay.
That's perfectly fine. I like this. Like, Godjiras have a lot of alpha actually, and they're keeping it really well. I love having you good and on board here with us, because this now raises a lot of questions of what are you guys actually preparing, and that's really, 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 really amazing. But now let's speak about onboarding. what Milan just said, like they won't have their game accessible to everyone. And we know that, like, I think there was a research that around 10 or maybe even less than 10% of people who are like true gamers are actually now part of Web3 gaming. How do you guys see that? And what do you think should be the main step in terms of like how to onboard true gamers, how to onboard muggles into this crazy space?
By giving them what they want instead of what you want to give them. That is actually the key to success and onboarding people in every single possible niche and industry there is.
Milan, sorry for interrupting you in the middle of the sentence. Yeah. Actually, Luke has to go now. Hooligans will be hooligans. Yeah, and they have to leave now, unfortunately. So
I'm
guys,
sorry. Really sorry. I'm getting into it. Was fine. We could have let just finish the sentence, but yeah, I'm really sorry. We're in the middle of a shoot. We're shooting some content on our stage right now, live action stuff. So we need to get back to that. But thank you for having us on here. We've really enjoyed this. Very informative space, and absolutely everybody on here. We believe they're all really intelligent individuals, especially Dylan. Dylan is definitely one of the smartest people I've met in the space, and we've spoke before. Degenheim, we've had a spaces together before. Yeah. These guys are doing great things, and Godjira, everybody knows Godjira.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great work there.
You guys are all legends.
Everybody is an absolute legend in this space. We're not here to compete with each other. We're here to push each other, and it's all about pushing each other to get to those next levels and greater success. But our doors are always open. We're always willing and open to work with absolutely anybody. We see ourselves as not individuals who want to create something in a silo, but we want to create things together. And that's the only way we're really going to take this Web3 thing to the next level. If we want to compete with the likes of Meta, want to compete with the likes of these billion-dollar organizations, all of us smaller projects, smaller companies have got to get together and put our best feet forward and not fight. So it's all about peace and love and happiness.
Yeah, and just cannot say how much respect and love and appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much for having us on. We really appreciate the time. We'll look forward to the next one. Thank you so much. Stay well.
Thank you, guys.
We will listen into Degenheim on this.
Sorry to cut you off there, Degenheim.
Respect.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, guys, once more. Hooligans will be building and hooligans will be hooligans. So thank you, guys, for joining in, and talk to you soon. Hopefully in some other space. Milan, please, once more, really sorry for interrupting your sentence.
No.
But they have to hop off. Pun intended.
No problem. No problem.
So, yeah.
To be honest, it's better this way because, like, obviously, when they had to leave, like, it's better so that they don't part in silence, like, hey, bye, right? But they get to like get off properly. So I think this was the proper way. I'm super fine with it. So nothing to worry about. Yeah, to continue about this is actually proper onboarding because, like, I have spent well over 12 years of my career professionally doing this in multiple industries. Proper onboarding works in ways that you have to make it about the consumer, right? You have to give them what they want and what they expect, right? And as others have said here, the Web3 niche is currently tremendously small. If like, for example, if anyone is actually doing a holders only game or like only aiming for Web3, like, that is suicide. That is unscalable. That is nothing you can grow into a solid and big and feasible scalable gaming business. Hence why onboarding processes in the Web3 space, it's actually a very, very delicate puzzle, right? You want to use everything that is up your sleeve to your advantage, whether it's Web3 things which allow you for a bottom-up direct-to-consumer approach, right? Because, like, Web3 allows you to do beautiful things, right? Ask anyone who isn't on the Asian gaming market how hard it is to penetrate the Asian gaming market. Like, it's at first nobody talks to you. If someone even talks to you, it will cost you a shit ton of money, and you will have to give up 75% to 90% of your revenue. Here, you can go to gaming communities, gaming guilds, which have, I don't know, 30, 50,000, I don't know how many players, and talk to them direct to consumer, right? CEO or founder or CTO or lead game dev or whoever the fuck, right, talks directly to the players. when have you last time spoken to a C-level or founder person on the roster of any gaming studio? Never, right? And here it happens on daily basis, right? And it doesn't cost you shit. And then you combine it with the Web2 go-to-market strategy, which is more of a top-down approach, which is like utilizing content creators, streamers, utilizing profitable user acquisition campaigns, and so on. And then you slap it on to a solid product, which that is imperative that you have, because like even if you have all of this nailed down and people come to your game and the game is shit or they don't like it, they'll be like, oh, fuck this, right? And the problem with Web3 gaming is a similar problem I have been solving for smart offices or, for example, for my cloud startup, is that there's a big technological gap, right? As someone else here said, like people don't want to know the tech and the cables and so on. They want to play the game, right? But how are most games doing it, right? It's like, imagine you're a Web2 person that is not really Web3 savvy. You see your favorite streamer playing DJtime, let's say, right? And you're like, oh, this game looks nice. Oh, let me try it. And then boom, you download the game, and suddenly like you'd be like, connect your wallet. And you'd be like, connect your wallet? What the fuck? And it's like, what is this? And suddenly you have to Google, like, oh, what is a wallet? Oh, it's a blockchain thing. So this is a blockchain game? What is a blockchain? Which blockchain is this on? What is a wallet? How do I create a wallet? How do I connect a wallet? How do I use it? How do I keep it safe? Yada, yada, yada. And suddenly you wanted to go play a fucking game. Instead, you are looking at 30 pages of documentation and watching 4 video tutorials on how to sign into a game. And by that time, everyone is like, gonna go back to Diablo, fuck this, right? Nobody plays your game. So you have to combine all of this and then put on an optimized onboarding process for your game, which, for example, in case of Diegenheim, was designed very closely with what TikTok did. And remember, TikTok exploded as fuck. How and why? Because the entry point to TikTok was non-existent. Someone sent you a TikTok video, you could have looked at it in your browser. You didn't even need to use the fucking app to be there. Then you wanted to have a better experience, you downloaded the app. Did you need to register? No, you didn't. You know the point when you needed to register, when you wanted to create content, comment, or otherwise contribute. But by that time, you already have spent months or days or hours on TikTok, having all those dopamine spikes. This created a lot of psychological and emotional commitment inside your head because you spent time and you had a nice time there, which creates a subconscious notion inside your brain. And there's a lot of psychological research to back this, which actually makes you subconsciously inside your brain willing to convert yourself instead of being converted, because everybody loves shopping and nobody loves being sold to. Remember the last time where we went into a store and somebody was like, oh, can I help you? And you were like, no, just checking. You bought something, but you didn't want to interact with the salesperson. You just wanted to shop. And that is how you create an onboarding experiences here. Instead of doing all this tedious Web3 shit, you want to give people the game and you want them to play the game. You want them to become hooked and be like, oh, this game is awesome. I can't wait to play fucking Diegenheim tomorrow when I come back from school. And now imagine you do this for 1, 2, 3 days, whatsoever. You had your time, you had your psychological and emotional commitment. And suddenly, as a Web2 person, you see a pop-up of like, hey, dude, do you know the 3 items you just looted are worth this amount of ETH, which equals this amount of USD? And suddenly, as a Web2 savvy person, non-Web3 savvy person, you're like, oh, wait a minute, what the fuck? I can potentially make money on top of this? Like, let me look into this Web3 thingy, because suddenly there's a huge upside for you. And boom, you converted yourself in the most enjoyable, most intuitive, least intrusive way there possibly is. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is onboarding. And that is just a part of the puzzle. This is only on the project level of yours, right? What you have to consider is the fact that besides whatever...
Sorry, Milan. Sorry to jump in. The host is having connection issues. We might be rugged, but I'll let you continue. If that happens, we will create a new one instantly. Just so you know.
Yeah, okay, no problem. Okay, and this is only on the project level of things. You have to, in Web3, we have to even look beyond the project, which is that we have to overcome the stigma of the outside world. Of everybody's like, NFTs are bullshit. It is full of scammers and bad people. And this
but
is something you have to overcome.
That's sad true, unfortunately, at this point,
Yes,
right?
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Actually, I actually saw a statistic that 97.7% of coins which were ever swappable on Uniswap, which usually a lot of these metaverse, gaming, NFT, whatever tokenomics were swappable on Uniswap, were rug pulls. 97.7%. What the fuck, right? And the thing, how we actually overcome this, is that more and more proper and solid builders which build proper projects and products which scale and maintain themselves and show the people that, like, we came here to build something instead of get money from you and disappear. The more this happens, the more good projects and products the consumers get to experience, the more they will start feeling they're like, oh, this might actually be a good thing. Web3 doesn't inherently have to be a bullshit space full of scammers, because like that is what the news told me, that is what my friends told me. But when you get all these like positive experiences and all the other projects start striving together for the growth and betterment of the space might outgrow us by far, being big enough for all of us so that the gaming projects actually don't have to compete. And this, I think, is a very noble cause. And the most beautiful part is that every single gaming project we spoke to, whether it was like in the early days, some people are like, how do you intend to compete with Big Time or Guild of Guardians? And I'm like, yeah, I was on a call with Matt from Big Time, and we both laughed on this question because nobody wanted to compete with anyone. We're building a different genre. How do we intend to compete with IMX? Well, IMX asked me for pointers on how to optimize onboarding processes for games like Guild of Guardians, and it's like I'm glad to help. Right? I have been giving gaming consultations for the last 3/4 of a year for free for other projects because I want to see good and better projects in the space because it actually helps the space. And whether I talk to Big Time, Ezra Games, Mythic Protocol, I don't know, whoever the fuck you want to imagine, everyone was on the same page. Everyone was coming out and was like, oh, let's compare dicks. My game is better than yours. Everyone was like, how about we do some cool shit together? Want to try our game and give us some feedback? And boom, that is possibly the best thing that happened here, that people are not looking for competition among the gaming projects. And the more they stick together, the more they can build the space up into the space that we want and need the space to be in the future. And that is a beautiful thing. So for onboarding the masses, you have to solve a lot of problems on the project level side, but you also have to venture beyond that and try to solve a lot of problems on the space level of side. So it's like, sorry for the long monologue, but in my opinion, this is a very complex question which requires a very complex answer, which you have to view from different angles of point of view to properly address it. So yeah, I'm done.
Amazing. I mean, you've said so many things that are like were inside of my mind, and I'm so grateful to hearing you speak it, saying it loud. One just information, we're gonna bring Big Time as well. We're gonna bring War Park as well to one of our spaces, I think in the next 2 weeks. Dylan, you had your hand raised. Please, floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, since raising my hand, Milan has answered a lot of the points, but I'm just going to touch on two. I think hiding the wires is probably the most important part, right? I mean, that's the term I use for making the onboarding experience seamless, right? When someone downloads your game, it should be on the platforms that they're used to using. We've mentioned Big Time a lot, but they've started doing this quite a bit. We're now seeing this amazing success of Reddit, right? Where you take away all these stupid terms that were made by developers and not marketing departments, like NFTs, and you say things like digital collectibles, and suddenly, all the people who hated NFTs are, holding digital collectibles without any problem, right? They love digital collectibles like skins and stuff. So hiding the wires, whereby the onboarding is the normal places that they've downloaded games from, is essential. And then once, as Milan said, once they suddenly realize, hey, I've got $1,000 item, Then they'll go and do the research to check out the fact that they've also got it on a wallet and it's on a blockchain somewhere and they can do something with it. But first you get them into a game that they recognize. And then secondly, it has to be fun. And I think the biggest danger zone for fun is that the NFT space is a terrible feedback loop, right? Most of the people here, the core utility for the original investors or traders is how much ETH can I flip it for? And so if you ask their opinion on what a good game is, you're going to get the wrong answers because they will do things that benefit them in the short term. Whereas the good news is we have tons and tons, decades of data of what players actually enjoy, no matter what they're bitching about or crying about, because gamers love to bitch about everything. That's their nature. That's who they are. They're very tribal. But the good news is that the data use usually does not lie. And so if you aim to create great games, you will piss off a lot of people, but you will onboard way, way more.
Yeah, by the time I got myself in line to talk, you basically answered everything. But yeah, what Milan said, Web2 gamers basically don't like the idea of NFT. They will play blockchain games eventually when they will not know that it's actually NFT. It could be called, I know, a BFG. You all know what that means. Basically, what Dylan said afterwards, like digital collectible, which Reddit used, this will all come into place eventually. It will just not be called NFTs. And yeah, I couldn't agree more with both of you. You basically said everything I wanted to say while I was waiting for my turn.
Vitsa, look what Top Shot did to you, and they only mention NFTs one single time on their homepage. So Top Shot onboarded so many people by just saying digital collectibles, nothing more, nothing less. Only I've done the research on their homepage, and they only mention it once. So it's like, I think that there's definitely like a huge gap, and what you guys just said, like people will refuse, coming into the NFT space because there's a lot of scammers. There's a lot of, they heard about the hype. They think there's like bull run or there's like bear market now. I mean, personal opinion now, without like NFT go behind my back, like I consider there is no like bear market, and we are all now in this space, and it's like perfect time to build. Every time is perfect time to build. Like there's no, if there was a hype, okay, it's bull run, but people like tend to compare these terms from crypto and replicating it into the NFT market space. And NFT market space is something completely different than what's crypto. And like companies, there's like also huge difference between what are Web3 companies. Like you guys are all part of like huge companies. You're not part of any like random NFT project. You're part of companies which are growing in Web3 space. And NFT is just like the layer of tech that you guys are using to distribute your content, skins, or whatever you guys are using in your games. So I think that like with the onboarding question is that we definitely have to educate a lot of people. I'm not sure how much people are ready to get educated on that topic, and that this like previous so-called bull run gave us a lot of damage and gave us a lot of success. Okay, bunch of people made money. That's on the side. But in terms of like giving us damage, we got some. There was also like a research that I think 70 or something % of people who entered the space during this bull run were scammed, and they never came back. So that's like the huge damage, because they're thinking like, okay, I got scammed once and somebody's going to scam me again, and it's so easy to get scammed, etc., etc., etc. So we definitely need like collectively to work on like educating people how to protect themselves, first of all, and how to use the technology. What Dylan, you just said with Reddit, they never used the term of NFTs. They used digital collectibles, and boom, 3 million wallets are there. So that's like,
yeah. And Maria, can I just add one other thing? Because as you were talking, I remembered a point. I speak to, I like to hang out on 4chan. I'm going to admit it, friends. I just enjoy the candid nature of the trolls over there, because they say what they mean because they can't be cancelled over there. But when I speak to them and when I speak to my friends who are guild leaders and esports players and Second Life people, and I say the word NFT and they start to attack me with their rant on how it's all a scam and everything, I say to them straight out, we're now in the age of cancel culture. Your biggest pain point is that we all know friends who wrote something stupid on a forum or swore at someone in the game and found they had violated a terms of service and had all of their accounts frozen, right? And they pause because terms of service is like the most scary word you can say into Web2 gamers, TOS, right? Because everyone has a horrible story with TOS. And that's the aspect that I want them to draw on. Yes, we still have to hide the wires. Like Milan said, no one wants to read manuals for 4 hours. They will turn around and they'll go back to their Eves and their World of Warcraft and their bad experiences because that's too much of a pain point. But if you can take away that, if you can make the onboarding easy and then give them ownership when the terms of service is violated, and the game says we don't want you in our game, at least they can then vote with their feet and sell off their assets or transfer it to their friends or something else. And that is the aspect that I always fight with them on, because that's common ground, right? I think finding common ground has been a terrible mistake that so many people have made, where instead of trying to find what's the technology, right? We keep talking about NFTs or the art or how fun it's going to be. We've got to remind people what the technology is. As Ryan Carson always says to me, he always goes back to the basics. The amazing part of the technology that you've just mentioned as well, Marie, is the digital ownership, right? The fact that we own these assets is something that we don't talk about enough. We're all building companies that is using this incredible technology of digital ownership. And that's the point I keep reminding them as well.
Mic drop. Honestly, on everything you just said, like, it's amazing. I'm speechless, and I'm interested. Ruben, you said that your your background is in esports. My background is sort of like, let's say, one part in esports, like following it from the gambling side. So I'm interested in how do you see it from this perspective now, and do you think that we can see, like, okay, Degenheim had this tournament. Do you think that soon we'll be able to see Web3 games in esports space? And are they going to get classified as, part of esports? Like, I don't know, am my thoughts clear? But I hope you understand the question.
Yeah, I understand your question for sure. I do think so, yes. And I wanted also actually to touch about a little bit about the onboarding and the creative ways of which you can use exactly what Milan said. I would digress back actually to Ninetales again, just because they've solved this in what I found as a very interesting way, where you have a competitive environment that is actually feeding the value back into the casual player base, and then repeating that type of conversation that Milan was saying. So the competitive players would be earning tokens, which would be the NFT holders, which would feed then the casual players that would be onboarded through more of a Web2 funnel of just, you can just go and play the game. You don't need any assets. You don't need anything. You just need an account and download the game. It's on all the platforms that you already know. You earn some tokens, and those tokens get poured in by the competitive environment. So you get a circle economy where you start onboarding the people from Web2 because now they have some tokens. Oh, okay, I want to go and buy some loot chests. Oh, I can't do that yet. I need an actual wallet. Oh, okay, how do I do that? They show you how you get the wallet. You go and buy the chest. Now you already have a wallet. And okay, if you want to earn more tokens because you thought this was really fun and you got this digital collectible that you can also sell on the marketplace and make some money. Holy shit, I can make some money off of this. How do I make more of that? Okay, you need to actually go buy the NFT, because if you own the NFT, you'll accrue a little bit more tokens. And depending on how high in tier, if you go Gen 2, Gen 3, Genesis, whatever the system might be, you'll earn more, and then eventually you'll kind of tier up, become a professional player if you go that route. But you got onboarded through the economy of itself. So it's a self-sustaining economy that onboards people from Web 2 into Web 3. So that's a creative way of using tokenomics and economy within the ecosystem to allow people to come in for free, know money included, nothing, no commitment. If you like it, if you're good at it, you can buy an NFT and now you can make some more out of it, right? And then that again, competitive scene is kind of the key of your question there, is that it is a very competitive game. And it's like Hearthstone. Hearthstone is on Twitch. This game has a lot of the same elements, or it's actually more of the same elements that MTG has. So I definitely see that a competitive scene and the esports scene is going to blow up with this. Because as long as you got the P2E element to it, they will soldier it and they will evangelize this because it made improvements to their lives.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing this comment. And it's definitely like esports as such have been like booming for previous 10 years. And I can remember myself like sitting, well, maybe that was even like 20 or 15 years ago. Like we were sitting in these like game rooms in our city and like playing together, and always we had this like competitiveness between us, and we had like some really great players of Quake in our city and like CS, and some of them are like super successful players today. So that's definitely, I can see it coming. It's just a matter of time, definitely, when that's gonna happen. And I think it's gonna take some time, honestly. But it's definitely,
I think it might go faster than you think. Like imagine now you're sitting on a betting account in CS:GO Empire. You have $2 million worth of skin, but you can only sell it on the retail market for 50 to 60% of the value of what you actually have in your account. Imagine how infuriating that is.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. But I mean, like from the perspective of someone who is not currently playing games, I see things quite slow. But I mean, I said the same for the real estate. I was speaking with Vitsa like recently, and we were speaking about like utilities and of NFTs, and we said like, I don't know, 7 months ago or something like that, like real estate is gonna come in year 2 or something, and then it came like really fast. So I definitely get your point. Vitsa, please, you got your hands raised.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on our talk basically. I know my question might seem provocative, and by all means, guys, if you need to be vague, and don't tell us much. But how do you see utility for gaming NFTs for holders that are not really gamers and don't really have time to play games? And what will they be able to do with those?
Oh, well, I can start here. Can I show? Because now that's what the whole point of Crown Capital, right? The whole point of these like player investor collectors clubs is most of our members are busy minding their own business, running, being doctors and accountants and stuff like that. So we, pool the